Warming up this week to potentially record-shattering heat starting tomorrow, continuing on Thursday. So 190 million people above average. It's a good week, right? You got temperatures warming up. The sun is shining for many of you. We do have some storms out there, but overall, we've got a lot of warmth in the northeast and the southeast, and that's where we want to focus a look right now. All right, New York City and Boston. Let's bring it back to the 70s, upper 70s today. D.C., we're heading back to the 80s. So yesterday, we started the warming trend. Today, we are in it, and it just goes up from there. We jump up for your Wednesday to 94 in D.C., 90 in New York City, 87 in Boston. You know, in Maine yesterday, we were struggling through the 40s. Now we're going to find temperatures in the 80s. Yes, even up into Maine. By Thursday, upper 80s is in your forecast. Tomorrow, records could fall from the mid-Atlantic to the northeast, parts of the south as well. Setting a new record in Baltimore, Richmond tying a record, tying in Philly, coming very close in Albany, New York. And we got Cleveland and Huntington, West Virginia, all coming close to your records. Thursday numbers are up there as well. Another 87 in Boston, 91 in New York City. So going to some 90s here. Hartford, you're in the mix too. That would be a new record on Thursday, beating that old record that was originally set in 1936. Philadelphia and then also Concord, New Hampshire, we are looking at potentially record-breaking temperatures, or at least coming close on Thursday. D.C., here's a look at our numbers. Look at this. We're going to spend 1, 2, 3 days in the 90s, and you know what that means? A heat wave. That's the criteria, Cantori. 3 days. That's all you need.
Right.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Kel. For decades, Washington, D.C.'s rivers have suffered from severe pollution. Stormwaters can overwhelm the ancient sewer system in the nation's capital.
All right, but we got a major project taking place below the city's infrastructure, 10 to 15 stories below ground to be exact.
All right, joining us live to talk about this, D.C.'s $2.6 billion Clean Rivers Project is George Hawkins. He's the general manager of D.C. Water. George, first of all, tell us why this project. It's a big one.
Of these tunnels, and you'll separate out the storm water from the sewer water. They're deep, right? They're deeper than the metro. Why so deep?
In 2005, it's going to be completed 20 years later, 2025. Did you guys look at climate change, potential sea level rise, population increase, things like that when you were doing it?
George Hawkins, thank you so much. That was a really solid plan. Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Maybe a role model too for
other cities.
Right? A lot of infrastructure problems out there. Guys, AMHQ rolls on in just a moment.
There's been this misnomer over the years that it's the clash of air masses that creates thunderstorms, right? It's cold versus warm. It's not really the case, actually. Most of these severe thunderstorms that we track happen within the warm sector, and many times it's along this dry line, which is a boundary in itself. It is separating different kinds of air mass, but it's not about cold versus warm. It's about warm and moist versus hot and dry. So that's the difference. Moist versus dry, and the dry air actually lifts air like a boundary, right? Like a boundary, helps that moist air rise up, and you get these thunderstorms that just pop. And a lot of times the sky is blue, and all of a sudden a few cumulus clouds start going, and there's a lot of visibilities. Chasers love to be on the dry line because they have great visibility. They can see the storms, they can see how they're moving. And the dry line sets up with the hot, very dry air coming out of the desert southwest, and it normally moves east, but then retreats back west, only usually getting to maybe about central or even eastern Kansas and Texas. Doesn't usually get too much further east than that. But again, this is a focus for thunderstorms, and we will see that be the case today and in the coming days this week. Kelly.
All right, Jen, I know you're excited about our guest coming